Hello, my dear students of class 7. Today we are going to be continuing with the reading and explanation of the lesson how the ashes that made the trees bloom. Okay, so what we'll do is before we begin reading and understanding the lesson, I'm going to give you a recap of what we did in the last class. All right, the story revolves around a couple who lived in 19th century Japan in the daimyos era. All right, and were they had a pet dog named Muko, and they loved that dog too dearly because they had no children. Okay, and because they did have no children, they loved this little dog that they had, Muko. They loved it as if it were their own baby. Now, what they used to do is these kind people, they were very kind people, this old couple were very kind people, and they used to feed this pet tidbits of fish from their own chopsticks and all the boiled rice it wanted. All right, the farmer, this person, the old man, was a farmer, and he went daily to his fields in order to work on his fields, and he used to take his dog along with him to work. This person, the old man, loved and was kind to everything that had life. And one day, when he was returning home, his dog started putting his paws on his leg, started whining and signaling him to some spot behind the tree. The old man first thinks that maybe this dog has dug a bone over there, but when the dog kept on whining and running back and forth for a few minutes, the old man follows this dog a few yards, and the dog reaches a place behind the tree and it starts scratching lively. And this old man, he helps the dog, and while he uses his hoe and digs the ground a little bit, and then he finds a pile of gold right over there. All right, thus in an hour the old couple were made rich, and they were really good souls. So what they did was they bought a piece of land and they made a feast for their friends and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. So the neighbors who were poor, they also gave them some food. As for the dog Muko, they petted him till they nearly smothered him with kindness. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to read and explain to you from paragraph number 2 on page number 57. Please follow in your textbooks as the lesson is being taught and explained. All right, so now in the same village there lived a wicked old man and his wife, not a bit sensitive and kind. Okay, so in the same village that this old couple lived, there also lived a wicked old man, a wicked meaning a really bad old man, and his wife, and they were not sensitive and kind, just like the couple. They had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever they passed their house. All right, so anytime a dog went past their house, they used to always kick the dog for some reason, and they used to scold the dog every time any of the dogs tried passing their house. Now, hearing of their neighbor's good luck, they coaxed the dog into their garden and set before him bits of fish and other dainties, hoping he would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of the cruel pair, would neither eat nor move. All right, so this wicked old man and his wife, they did not like all dogs. Okay, they always kicked the dog and they scolded the dog, and anytime any of the dogs went past their house. Now these people, they heard about this old couple whom we studied about. They heard about this old couple, and they heard about their good luck that their dog helped them find some gold. All right, so they coaxed, meaning they persuaded the dog into their garden, meaning that they coaxed and persuaded the dog to come inside their garden. And what they did is they gave him some bits of fish and other dainties. Dainties meaning tasty food. All right, so they gave him fish and other dainties, and they hoped that he would find treasure for them. But the dog was afraid of this cruel pair, meaning the cruel couple, the wicked old man and his wife, and would neither eat nor move. All right, so the dog never entered into their house, it did not eat, nor did it go anywhere. Then they dragged him out of doors, taking a spade and hoe with them. We already know what a spade and a hoe is from the last part that we did. All right, so they dragged him out of the doors, taking a spade and a hoe with them, and no sooner had the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch the ground as if a mighty treasure lay beneath. All right, so what they did was, when the dog did not decide to eat, they dragged the dog, they pulled him outdoors, and they took a spade and a hoe with them, and the dog ran near a pine tree growing in the garden, and he began to scratch just like he did for the kind old couple. Okay, so he starts scratching the ground as if a mighty treasure lay beneath, meaning a mighty treasure may be underneath. "Quick, wife, hand me the spade and hoe," cried the greedy old fool as he danced with joy. All right, so once the dog started digging, this man, the greedy or the wicked old man, he started getting excited. All right, then he calls out to his wife and said, "Give me the spade and give me the hoe," and he danced with joy. Then the covetous old fellow with a spade and the old crone with a hoe began to dig. Okay, the covetous meaning a person who covets other people's belongings. All right, meaning that he is a greedy person. All right, so the covetous old man with a spade and an old crone. An old crone is an old woman, that is the old man's wife, the wicked old man's wife. Okay, so the old man, along with his wife, they started to dig, but there was nothing but a dead kitten, the smell of which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Okay, so when they dug the ground, they did not find any gold, but instead they found a dead kitten, and when they smelled that, they immediately dropped the tools, the spade and the hoe, and they covered their noses. Now, furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death, and the old man finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. Then he flung him into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. Such a wicked person this old man is. All right, now because the dog did not find the treasure like he did for his real owners, the kind old couple, this wicked old man, he was furious. He was angry at the dog, and he kicked and beat the little dog to death. He killed it. And the old woman, his wife, finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. So she took that, after killing it, she chopped off this dog's head. What wicked people they can be. All right, and then they flung him, meaning they threw him into the hole which they had dug, and they heaped the earth over his carcass, meaning that they covered the earth and made it into a heap over his dead body. Such a sad thing to have happened. All right, the owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet, and mourning for him as if he had been his own child, went at night under the pine tree. All right, so the owner of the dog, the kind old man who loved and was kind to all things living, this person, he heard about his dog, his pet, his pet whom he had considered to be his own child because they did not have parents. Okay, so he found out about the death of his pet, and he was mourning, he was saddened by this, and he went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes on in the ground, such as used before bamboo tombs in which we put fresh flowers. All right, so he set up some bamboo tubes, meaning if you look at a bamboo tree, it will be hollow, meaning it will have a hollow round grooves. You could see through it, all right, like a pipe. Okay, and he set up some bamboo tubes on the ground where his dog was buried. And these are tombs which are used where people come and put fresh flowers for people they have lost. This old man had lost his dog, whom he had considered his own child. And what he did was he made a small little tomb for the dog and he put fresh flowers there. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. Okay, so this what he did was he was so saddened that he had lost his pet whom he thought was his own child. He kept a cup of water there and a tray of food on the grave, and he burned costly incense sticks around them. He mourned a great while, meaning he cried a great while over his pet, calling him many dear names as if he were alive. Yes, a dog, after a point in time, if a dog has lived with you for a few years in your house, it becomes a part of your family. Okay, it starts understanding you and you start understanding the dog, and there is a great relationship that is built between the dog and its owner. Okay, so this owner used to call its dog lovely, dear names, and he started thinking about all that, and he started crying over the death of his dog as if he was alive. He started calling him different names. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, "Cut down the pine tree over my grave and make it a mortar for your rice pastry and a mill for your bean sauce." All right, so in the dream, the dog comes back in the owner to the owner in a dream and says to him, "Cut down the pine tree where you came and left some food for me, where you built a small little bamboo tomb for me. Cut the pine tree down which is over my grave." If you look at the picture over there, you will see that the dog is howling. There is a pine tree. Okay, it's a coniferous tree. And you will see that the grave of a dog is there. You will see the bamboo poles as well on the grave around him, built by this man. All right, the dog tells this old man in his dream, "Cut down the pine tree and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry." A mortar is a bowl for his rice pastry, and a mill for your bean sauce. A bean sauce is the sauce that is used to eat the rice pastry with, a rice cake with. Okay, so the old man chopped down the tree and cut out the middle of the trunk section about 2 feet long. Okay, so as the dog came to him in his dream and instructed this old man went and cut the pine tree down where the dog had been buried, and he took the trunk section of the tree, not the bark, not the leaves, but the trunk section of the tree, about 2 feet long, and with great labor, meaning that he really worked hard for it, partly by fire, partly by chisel. Chisel is a tool used to shape wood. Please write that down. Chisel is a tool that is used to shape wood into different forms. Okay, so with great labor, partly by fire, meaning he partly used fire and he partly used a chisel, and he scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. All right, so he used that and he made a small bowl with great labor and using his chisel. And then he made a long handled hammer of wood. Alright, so along with that, he made a hammer which is made out of wood, which is used for pounding rice. Okay, so if you see people in Japan, they use a wooden hammer, okay, in order to make rice into rice powder. Okay, so to make rice grains into rice powder, they make a bowl, okay, just like how he described, like a mortar, and he made a hammer as well, a wooden hammer from the bark of the pine tree, so that he can pound the rice and make it into rice powder. All right, then when New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. All right, so in New Year's time, these people, they like eating something called rice pastry. So he decided to make rice pastry. So he goes, and when the rice was boiled, Granny, his wife, put it into the mortar, meaning the bowl, and the old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into dough. All right, and in order to make the mass into a dough, like how you make dough for bread, the same way this person wanted to make rice dough. All right, so he used his hammer and he started pounding the mortar with the hammer, the wooden hammer. And the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. All right, so he made the dough and this was ready to be baked. Suddenly, the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. Wow. Alright, so when he did that, as per the dog's instructions, he made a mortar from the pine tree, and he also made a hammer of wood, a wooden hammer from the pine tree. And on close to New Year's Eve, when New Year's time drew near, he decided to make rice pastry, and when he did that, he used the same pine mortar and the wooden hammer that he had made from the pine tree. And when they made the dough, which was ready for baking, suddenly, out of magic, the whole mass turned into a heap of gold. The dough, which was going to be used to make the rice pastry, it turned into gold coins. Wow. When the old man took the hand mill and filling it with beans began to grind, gold dropped like rain. All right, so the old woman took the hand mill. A hand mill is a mill that is used to crush or powder something. Okay, so this old woman, she was powdering beans. Okay, so she put the beans and she began to grind them, and instead of the beans becoming powder, gold was formed and it dropped like rain. Alright, meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. "Goody me," cried the old hag, as she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold. Until a few minutes, the tub under the mill was full of a shining mass of gold. Alright, so this envious or wicked neighbor, what they did was they peeped into the window when this old kind couple were making gold. Alright, they peeped into that and they saw that the beans turned into gold, and she cried out loud. She saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold, and then she saw the whole tub under the mill, which was full of a shining mass of gold. Alright, we're going to stop at that for right now, and we're going to continue reading and understanding the lesson in the next part that we do. I hope you all enjoyed today's class. Continue enjoying classes and have a nice day, everyone. Thank you.